The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, I'm going to start the meeting for February 10th. At this meeting, the Commission will hold hearings on notices of intent, requests for determinations of adaptability. The Commission will also be voting on decisions taking up other business. No hearing times have been assigned to the specific agenda items, and the Commission will take them up in the order they are listed. Discussion and action items may be taken up at any time. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order to study provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting online. The Commission welcomes participation in the meeting by the applicants and general public. Attending the meeting tonight are 6 Conservation Commission members: Eric Foley, Margaret Wheeler, Jim Guzzo, Ian Jeffries, Marilyn Frank, and Peter Mahler, and the Conservation Resource Planner, Matt Salem. This meeting is recorded by Westford Cable Access TV. We respectfully ask that everyone mute their computer microphones and phones when they are not muted to avoid unnecessary noise during the meeting. This is an open meeting, so for all panelists who have access to the chat panel, please only use chat for technical issues related to the video conferencing. The Commission will proceed by opening the agenda items, having the applicant or the representative present the project, or the meeting they will provide a brief summary of the project. Commission and staff will follow questions and will open up to the public. At this point, if you wish to participate, you will raise your hand and your microphone will be unmuted for you to participate. Due to the limitations of the platform, attendees that are accessing the meeting via the telephone number at the top of the agenda will only be able to listen to the proceedings and will not be able to contribute. Please access the video conference via the link on the agenda, even if you do not have a webcam to participate. I'll take a roll call. Marilyn?
Here.
Tim?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
And Ian?
Here.
Okay. So the first agenda is open forum. Members of the Commission have anything for open forum?
No.
Nobody? Matt?
I have a couple items. Teamworks has filled the director position up at for their summer camp. They hired the woman who was the previous director at with the Marcus Lewis camp. So she has great knowledge about the facility, and I spoke with her yesterday for probably 30 minutes, and I'm looking forward to the relationship and when camp can start up. Christian Hoig, he's the gentleman who annually asks the Commission for permission to hunt on the parcel behind his property out by Flushing Pond. He wanted to thank the Commission for allowing him to do that again this past season, and he said he did harvest one doe. I think that's the first he's gotten out there. And then the Lawton Farms item, spoke with the members of the Homeowners Association, and they want to continue, they want to bring the mowing agreement back to their Homeowners Association at their annual meeting before coming before the Commission to see what they want to do, as I think the scope of the license agreement is more than they originally intended to. And so I just wanted to let you know that they're not on the call tonight, and we'll be looking to follow up. I'll be following up with them in April or May to figure out the next steps going forward.
Okay, I just have a couple items. The first is that I'll be going to the CPA meeting. I think it's on February 23rd. And so we've got 3 things we're sponsoring. We're sponsoring our usual $190,000 into the trust, and then we're also sponsoring the O'Brien Farm Bridge and the work to be done at the beach, the town.
Forge Pond.
Forge Pond, thank you. Yeah, so those 3. The other thing is I received a request today about using EBC to run the Westford Road Race. The sponsors have changed for that after 20 years. Laurie Cogliano was not doing it. There's a new group that's taking it over, and they asked us the possibility of running the race through the camps. We have done a 3K race through the camps before. I explained to her that the parking lot at Stony Brook School would have to be used for the staging area, that we didn't want the staging area on the camps, but they could run the race through the cross-country track that the cross-country team now uses. So they may be coming before us with more information. So, Jim?
Peter, were they good with using the parking up at Stony Brook Middle School?
I told her she had to use that. I mean, because we definitely don't want. There's no room.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I told her that was something that had to be. So, okay. Okay. Anything from the audience? Any raised hands out there, Matt?
I do not see any.
Okay, we're going to take a discussion item out of order because it's from a young student, and that's the proposed Eagle Scout project on Clottenberg Trail off West Road. Manu, are you there?
Oh, actually, Peter, it was the geocache on
Or what? That's the wrong
Francis
one.
Hill. That
Okay, that's the wrong one. So
Gotham's a little bit older.
Is the Eagle Scout going to be there? Because he's got to go to school tomorrow.
He has also. Oh,
Okay. I'm sorry. We'll do the geocache on Francis Hill Conservation first. My fault.
Hi there. Can y'all hear us?
Can.
Okay. I don't know if we're able to be up on video or not.
You should identify herself.
Okay, very good. Jack, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Jack Randall. I am 9 years old, and I am a bear in Pack 100 Den 8. I want to put a geocache in Francis Hill Conservation Land. Geocaching teaches
You have to talk louder,
explore
but
and have fun in the outdoors. It is a good way for families to spend time together in the outdoors. It helps you meet new friends. Why I like you in Cub Scouts. You can earn badges. It is fun to do as a pack and as a den. When we did our second den geocache, we also picked up trash. It can encourage people to clean up nature and help animals and wildlife. I hope you approve of my request to place a new geocache in Francis Hill Conservation Land off of Hunt Road. Thank you.
can you
Thank
link up? They
So,
can actually see.
With us?
Mm.
Everybody good with us?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Motion approved.
So moved.
Wait a second. Who
It was
was
all
the girl who spoke?
I'm Julie Merle. I'm Jack Randall's mom, and we live at 11 Francis Hill Road in Westford.
Very, very nicely done for a 9-year-old, I must say. You know, I couldn't have done nearly as well.
And it's okay with the Westford Conservation Trust in the Sudbury Valley? for the
So
CR?
we're gonna get that permission as well, but we knew that we had to go through and get multiple permissions. So this is the first one that we're getting. Well, what we can do is we can let Matt know when we've gotten the additional permission. We're looking at placing the geocache in the Lambert Conservation Land, which looks like it's in the Westford Conservation Trust.
Okay.
Okay with me, Peter.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Marilyn?
Yes,
Yes.
Margaret?
yes,
Eric?
Yes.
yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project. That'll be fun.
Okay, let's, I know the Eagle Scout's there. Let's take him next. So I know he's probably got school tomorrow. So the proposed Eagle Scout project in Clottenberg Trail Gotham, are you out there?
Gotham, if you unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, so I have a proposed Eagle Scout project for the Clottenberg Trail, which involves a number of steps. So if you go down, what my project is it'll entail the following: replacing the old log bridge with a new footbridge, cleaning up the path of the trail. The trust will remove any trees on the trail. Trailblazing the trail. Trust will provide the paint and color scheme. Installing a post and a trail map at the entrance of the trail, which the map will be provided by the trust. Next slide, please. So the first part is replacing a current log bridge with a new footbridge. Here is a picture of the current log bridge that sits placed on the only bridge site indicated on the Clottenberg Trail map. This was taken around early December. I am also attaching a picture of what I hope for the footbridge replacement to look like. The picture I'm attaching is the footbridge, and that's near Robinson School. Next slide, please. So clearing up the path of the trail. On the Clottenberg Trail, there are many large debris, such as large sticks and fallen trees, interrupting the path of the trail, making it difficult for hikers to walk through a clear path. I am hoping that a more clear path might encourage more people to use the Clottenberg Trail. I also plan on adding more stepping stones in the smaller streams, so it is easier for hikers to cross these streams. Next slide, please. So blazing the Clottenberg Trail. There are certain parts of the Clottenberg Trail where there are very little trailblazers, and thus it is difficult for people to stay on the trail for that reason. I plan on adding more trailblazers in the parts of the trail where there are very little or none at all. I am hoping that more people will use the Clottenberg Trail once it is fully blazed, knowing they won't get lost in the trail. Below is a picture of what a trailblazer on the Clottenberg Trail looks like. Next slide, please. Installing a post and a trail map. At the entrance of the trail, I plan to install a trust-provided trail map onto a wooden post that will be mounted somewhere by the entrance of the Clottenberg Trail. This way, hikers can take a picture of the trail map before entering the trail, so they know the trail layout and feel more safe while hiking in the trail. I'm attaching a picture of the trail entrance, so the post and the trail map will likely be installed close to the tree with the trail sign. And I also have some dates to propose, like of when I possibly might be doing my project. So the time for when I get all my approvals until late March, early April. I plan on fundraising, obtaining permits and permissions, working on the bridge design, obtaining materials, supplies, and tools, as well as working on the project plan. In late March, early April, I plan on starting off by clearing the trail. In April, I plan on doing trailblazing and installing the trail map and post. In May, I plan on replacing the log bridge with a new footbridge. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
So the trailhead on this is going to be right off of Flag Road, right?
Yeah, it's near Alcorn Crossing.
Right across. Yep.
Yeah, that's Alcorn Crossing is the closest parking spot.
Yeah. So this is the parcel, you guys, that is butts up to the 19 Hartford Road, which we'll be discussing next probably. So
yeah.
My only question is, we generally like to have the trail blazed with our plastic triangles.
Yeah.
So Matt, I think you have a source for those, Matt, to give them.
Yes, I can I'll follow up with him. I think that there might be a box in the office right now, but if not, I will make sure to provide a source.
Okay.
Okay.
So he'll have to come back and file with us. But is everybody in agreement this is a worthwhile project? Marilyn?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, whether or not, you said you plan to do some fundraising?
Yeah, so I plan on either asking for donations some materials or supplies or reduced cost, as well as asking different organizations such as the Conservation Trust, the Kiwanis, the Charitable Foundation, and as well as some of my friends and family.
Okay, if you wind up in trouble with that or short or something, you can come back and visit the Conservation Commission and see if we can help you a little bit as well.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Jim?
Yes, Gotham, you mentioned it later on in the spring is when you'd be starting the design for the bridge. Just a suggestion that you check with both the engineering department and the building department, because they're going to have requirements on the width, and they'll check out your design to make sure it's going to be adequate to support the load that'll be on it.
Okay, so would they also be taking a look at the bridge site to help determine those requirements?
Yep.
Maybe.
So the building and engineering department. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they'll help you with it.
Okay, so you're good. You can go forward with this, and we'll look forward to seeing you again when you need to file and get our permit.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Yep, thank you. So do I have to stay on for the rest of this meeting, or?
No, that's why we took you up front, so you could
Okay.
go
yeah.
to
Have a
bed.
good evening.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to a continuation of a public hearing for KMR Real Estate, LLC, 19 Harvard Road. Mark Seeger, you there?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Douglas DeShane, representing KMR, and I know Mr. Slager is also on here as well. Good evening. Mr. Salem was kind enough to send us over a draft of the conditions for the order, and we have reviewed those, and for the most part are very comfortable with them. Thank you. We do have a couple of questions and minor comments, if the board would give us an opportunity to just run through those.
Yeah, before we get to the order of conditions, I have a couple of questions on the overall layout and design.
Okay.
So as I went back and looked at the last couple of projects we did with laying out the trails, one thing that came right to me was that you guys didn't completely lay out the trail going through that common area parcel. And in the past, we've had the applicants lay out the trail and put it in, because this isn't going to be on our property. It's on your property, and it's going to be on a CR. And we want to make sure the description of the trail and the layout of the trail is thoroughly documented in the plan. So you guys have it for the bridge crossing over the wetlands, and then there's nothing there. And I think you really need to decide where the rest of the trail is going to go in to connect the Clottenberg property.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you, Mike.
Oh, okay. We did talk about this at the last meeting, and I think what our intent was to have, rather than a specific area where people walk, would be to allow them to just go wherever they want within the open space parcel, rather than being restricted to just the trail itself. So we were kind of hoping, it is kind of open in there, and it's not really rugged terrain. So we were just kind of open that we could just leave it and people could just go in and go wherever they're going to go. We could certainly demarcate the edge of the open space so they stay within it. But I thought we were in agreement that an actual trail didn't need to be delineated on that particular section.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem in the future when this becomes the homeowner's, parcel. And that's what I'm afraid of, is that if we don't have a laid out section of exactly where people can walk, that, you know, the homeowners would come back to us and say, well, it's not on the plan of record. So that's what I'm concerned with.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mark, could we just demarcate a trail from the opposite side of the bridge into the center of the parcel and basically show a loop? Or, Mr. Chair, would you prefer that we show that trail meandering, to the northeast and connecting to the town's open space?
Yeah, I want to see something where we have the right to go along whatever the path is going to be, that it's laid out and it connects to the town property.
Well, Mark, I think we could show that. I think we could depict that on a plan, as long as the commission is in agreement that when it comes time to build it, that we would probably want to go out with your agent and walk the path so that we could meander it around trees. You know, we don't have any intention of cutting trees and clearing a trail. We want to create a natural footpath through the existing vegetation. So we can commit to that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, because that's what we did with Juniper Hill with Jeff Bram. Carol went out there, and I think, Jim, you went out there and helped lay out that whole trail system. Yeah.
I think rather than
Go ahead.
I think rather than show it on a proposed plan, maybe it would be better if we go out and lay out the trail and then provide the commission with a like an as-built plan of the trail once it's all established.
That's fine, because it's going to be part of the CR.
Mm-hmm.
Because the homeowners are going to own this parcel, and we end up having problems with the homeowners association after the fact, time and time again, about certain things with CRs. You know, it's like the lawn mowing over at whatchamacallit, where we're still dealing with that.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
All right. We could add the trail onto the actual CR plan that gets recorded.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, as long as the final plan on record that gets filed with that CR lays out exactly, where people can go. So
We'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, I'm fine then.
So would you like me to?
Outline your issues.
All right, I will run through these quickly, and many of them are just clarifications. On condition 25, the commission has asked us to provide a cash bond for the replication area. And while we are agreeable to bond that, we would like the opportunity to bond it in the manner in which, we're typically allowed to bond things, so that while it could be cash, it could also be a performance bond, or it could be a tripartite agreement. The planning board is going to require us to bond this as well. And as you know, the planning board allows one of those three opportunities to a developer bonding something. And so you're technically asking for a cash bond, which is, quite frankly, the tough one for us. So we would just like the opportunity to bond it in, the manner that the town bonds roadways, and the planning board's going to bond this through anyways. And then perhaps the commission would consider allowing us to seek a reduction in the bond once the replication is done. Perhaps we could seek just 1/3 release, and then we'd seek a 2/3 after 1 full year. And then, of course, after the 2nd year, and as long as everything is fine, we would seek the final amount. I mean, otherwise, my clients are going to have to bond the whole cost, in fact, 1.5 times the cost, then incur the cost and not be able to get any of that 1.5 times back. So we just ask for your consideration in that.
So Doug, let me ask you a question in regards to the bonding. First of all, if you bond, I believe you still have to collateralize that bond 100%. So whether it was cash or performance, I believe the collateralization is still the same.
Well, I can buy, Eric, if I buy a $50,000 bond, I pay for that bond.
No,
but
I know.
I don't pay 50,000 for it. I pay less.
Typically, the surety bonds that I deal with and the surety providers that I deal with are asking a 100% collateralization of the instrument. So if you're able to get something less than that, that's pretty good. I just, the other question I had in regards to the bond is if it's a tri-party bond. And I'm saying, so that would be yourselves, the planning board, and maybe the conscom? Is that
No,
what
it's actually us. It would be us, the bank, that guarantees that they're holding the money, and the Conservation Commission.
Well,
That
the
is
bank,
the most
acts as-
form-
the bank
that-
acts
that's
as
the
the
most
trust if they're
common
holding the bond.
form. I'm sorry, Eric, I'm sorry, what?
The bank is acting as a trustee if they're holding a bond on behalf of the town. So that's the capacity that they would act in. The default condition would be if in the bond, if things didn't perform, and then, we would have to, somehow access the bond for a default condition. As far as being able to reduce the amount of the bond, once performance conditions have been met, that's possible to do if the bond is structured that way. But if it is, I would think the bond would need to be between the Conservation Commission and the applicant, with the bank acting as a trustee to hold the bond.
Right. That's the most popular way we bond everything. When we bond a subdivision road or any other projects, is the tripartite agreement between, again, typically the town, the bank, and the developer, and they agree to hold the 1.5 times amount in essentially as an escrow agent for the town or the commission. And if in the event of a default, that agreement allows the town to take the bond and the bank will pay it over. And they do allow that as the town, or in this case, the commission, agrees to reduce the bond, it's reduced. And so what essentially happens is once there's a reduction, then my client's not paying interest on that full amount of money that the bank's holding.
True. When you talk about bonding, now typically when I get a bond, a surety bond, it's issued by an insurance company.
Right.
And a bank would hold that, but it's an instrument that's like, if a bank held it, they wouldn't have the right to reduce it. They could go to a surety on behalf of the beneficiary and say, hey, on behalf of the beneficiary, we're seeking to have a reduction in the bond. But typically they don't have the wherewithal themselves to reduce it. But maybe when you say bonding, it's simply, you mean something different. It's not an actual physical surety bond because the bank doesn't issue a bond.
Right. What's going to happen in all reality is my clients are more than likely going to do it as again, is the most typical method that we see bonding, and that is through the tripartite agreement with the town or the commission, the town on behalf of the commission, my client, and the bank. And the bank will hold the money until such time that you decide to partially release any of it, and then the bank will reduce what they're holding at that time. And maybe Matt has some experience with this, but it is the way that the Massachusetts state law allows for bonding on subdivisions, roadways, and it's, quite frankly, the most protective method. I'm just asking for the flexibility to use that as opposed to writing a check.
Yeah, Eric, just to chime in, those are the three mechanisms for providing surety within subdivision control law. So it is commonplace. I'm familiar with it. Again, this was just the language in this condition was it doesn't explicitly say it. It's the other forms as acceptable by the town. But I can surely work on this with the applicant to make sure that the language is consistent with, and also make sure it's consistent between us and the planning board's decisions.
Well, let me just say this, Matt, you know, if there's an agreement here, I would prefer it to be between the conscom and the applicant, and not have the bond be part of a larger, multi-board bond or whatever. That way, we're in control, as opposed to having an agreement amongst the boards on whether or not, we want to reduce it or make a claim or what have you. It puts us more in control.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay.
And the board's thoughts on the third.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Fine.
What else, Doug?
Okay, the next one is really a clarification. On condition number 28, when we're talking about the silt fence being keyed into the ground. I just want to make sure, because I know in the past, we've moved away from some of those keys, keying those into the ground because of the additional disturbance, but I just want to make sure that the commission wants to see that that done in that manner. Right, Mark? I mean, am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, typically they're not required to put the silt fence keyed into the ground, but it's just put on the overlapping or the extra silt fences laid on the ground, and the straw wattles or the silt socks are just put on top of it and then staked in every few feet so that it's all one unit. Because when you key it into the ground, you have to get some equipment in there like a ditch witch or something like that, and there could be some additional clearing. Whereas if you do it this way, without keying it in, you can go around trees and a lot more closer to trees and whatnot. So just a clarification, it's never been
do it
required.
however you want. It's just that we haven't done that key, in the past.
So
Would we get the same level of protection?
Yes.
Okay.
So
It's going to be closely monitored too as part of the order of conditions.
this condition was taking almost verbatim from the last subdivision order of conditions that was issued by the commission at Spalding Hill. So I'm happy to have it be at the commission's wishes.
What do you guys think?
I
Either
mean,
one's okay with me.
sometimes I've seen the silt fence when it's not keyed in, and it's like 6 inches off the ground. And when you're looking at that, it defeats the purpose of a silt fence. If you're talking that the straw wattle is actually going to be placed on top of a portion of the silt fence and then keyed into the ground that way with stake, then I know it's to the ground and going to function as intended. But if the design was such that it was off the ground, then it wouldn't make much sense.
Well, we would intend, Eric, to do it the prior way, which is, run the excess under, you put your wattle and then you stake through the wattle. And as you know, your agent is going to inspect and make sure that it's done right. And again, I'm not saying we don't want to dig it in and bury it. It's just, it's pretty disruptive. That's all. So whatever you want.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
All right. Condition 37, your third bullet item, you're requiring us to do the replication area conducted simultaneously with the filling of the wetland. It was suggested that we actually do the replication area prior to the wetland alteration, and that way it helps to ensure that seeds from any invasive plants that are disturbed won't actually make their way to the replication area, you know, if you're working on them at the same time. So we're actually suggesting we will do the replication area first. That way we don't worry about invasives being transferred over when we start doing the wetland stuff.
That's fine.
It's
I
fine.
suggested, actually. All right, let's see. Mark, did you have, I know you had some comments on condition 48, it requires that any walls in greater than 4 feet will require a building permit, and they need required plans to be reviewed by the commission. As you know, the planning board has a condition that says any walls over 4 feet have to be engineered, stamped, and reviewed by the building commissioner. Do you really want us to submit them to you guys as well for approval?
Maybe we get the stamp plans.
I
What if we
think
get
we've had problems in the past.
What's that?
I think we've had problems in the past sometimes with wall construction and failure, and I think that's why that condition is in there.
Okay, I'm just asking, because again, with this condition is in every, approval we get from the planning board. And, we'll supply the same plan to you that we supply to the commissioner, okay? Again, just trying to clear up some things.
Yep.
Condition number 69, prior to the issuance, any aspects of the project, the applicant shall provide the Board of Bonds. I think we just a typo, that we use the word board in there. I think you want commission.
Yep.
On 16, condition 69.
I have a follow-up on that, Doug.
All right.
The only thing that I can imagine being not completed when we go for the final occupancy would be the finished pavement. And in this particular case, the finished pavement is also going to be the Cape Cod berm for the roadway, because that's going to be done in a monolithic pour. Basically, they pour them both at the same time. But there may be a situation where we'll be asking for a final occupancy before we actually get the pavement done, the finished pavement, that is. And that item is actually going to be bonded with the planning board anyway. So how would are you asking for a second bond when it's already going to be bonded with the planning board? Because I can't imagine anything else not being done when we're that far down the road, but I don't imagine the finished pavement will be done at that point.
So the reason I included this was just as a catch-all for any work that wasn't completed, because especially typically as the projects are winding up, that final certificate of occupancy is somebody is looking to move into their home. So as a means to not prohibit the certificate of occupancy from being issued, having this language, and Mark, I do agree. If it is, I think I can add in language where if it's the work
Unless
to be
otherwise
done,
posted. Yeah.
where if the work to be done is already
Work that
bonded.
isn't otherwise bonded by the planning board, maybe something to that effect.
Yep, I can include that.
Okay.
Mark, I know there were a couple other suggestions that we discussed. Are there any others you'd like to bring up?
No, I think it's all pretty straightforward. I think there were, a couple things that I was just being a little too picky on, but other than that, I mean,
Well,
it's
we're
all
not going to
covered.
be we're not going to be too picky, you guys.
No, it's like-
We appreciate the order, and we're willing to accept the conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, so when are you guys gonna finish up with the planning board?
We're back before them on March 1st, and they're hoping to have a decision for us on March 1st.
Okay, so do you want us to put this off until after then? To
So we
finalize
should
it?
continue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So we'll continue this to our first meeting in March.
March 10th.
Can we, could you have it ready on the 24th of February? I mean, there isn't much, just some changes.
But they
Well, we
won't.
can,
Planning
but you know,
board.
you're at
We
risk if
can't
we
close the
close
public hearing now.
the planning board changes something.
We never do it that way.
Okay,
So we really,
Yeah,
Usually
we
wait-
can, I agree, Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Yeah. okay, so we're going to March 10th.
All
Right?
right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yep,
Yeah,
All
we got
right.
to vote on that.
okay, so can I have a motion to continue this to March 10th?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Marilyn,
Yes.
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Eric,
yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, you guys, we'll see you in March 10th.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, good night.
Okay, we're moving on to our next agenda item, which is the continuation of a public hearing for Franklin, 31 Bridge Street. Chris, you there?
Hello,
Hey, Chris.
howdy, Joe. Good evening, Commission. Sorry, I was tired of showing up this afternoon. I fell asleep on the couch. Sorry about that.
That's
Up early
great.
shoveling snow. We did a little additional cleanup. I didn't get a hold of Matt like I said I would. But I have to ask, we had a partial pipe collapse that goes from the upper pond down to that goes onto the parking lot on the north end of the thing. So I'm wondering how the pipe broke or whatever, and the last heavy rainstorm we had, it washed out some of the gravel into the pipe, which I've had to clean out, and wanted to know how this I presume is under your preview. So I want to know how I go about getting it squared away, fixing it without causing any additional troubles.
So we can issue an emergency certificate and replace the pipe.
Yep.
All right.
But you'll have to work with Matt on that.
Yeah, it's a partial. It's an old concrete pipe and it's partially done. I'm hoping I can put a sleeve around it or whatever. But the problem is that heavy rain, it went from a little tiny hole to a fairly large hole. Again, it dumped a whole bunch of gravel into it, and I had to scoop it up because the upper drainage area, it just clogged the pipe up. So it's been
Work with Matt to get that emergency, the ability to go and work on that.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
That took most of our time. It took, again, cleaning it out, keeping it clear because it kept kind of washing out. And I'll show it to him. I'll get him down there to look at it the next day or so. Right now it's running fine. We cleaned it out, so that's not the issue. Now it has to be fixed.
Chris, I'll be in touch first thing in the morning to come out and take a look.
I haven't looked at it in the last few. I've had other things going on with the snow and all the rest, but yeah, get a hold of me in the morning and we'll go from there. Take a look at that.
Okay.
All right.
Matt, you said you had been out there within the last 2 weeks and that one of the big piles is finally repairing road.
Yes, I'd driven by and just in keeping tabs on the project. One of the larger piles on the eastern kind of parking storage area that was in the middle was removed. I noticed was removed, and with that, I think it's currently replaced by a large snowbank. But it was gone before the snow arrived and the snowbank appeared.
Yeah, we've been plucking away at it, but it hasn't been quick.
Okay, well, we just, Chris, we just want to make sure we continue to make progress
Yeah,
right along, clean the site up, all right?
yeah,
Patient.
thank you for having patience with me. And again, thank you for giving me, 4 months to get my head screwed on tight from the summer.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. Yeah.
All right, Matt, if you give me a call, if we get together tomorrow, I should be around on Bridge Street most of the day tomorrow, so shouldn't be a problem.
Right. I'll expect a call around 8.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll
Good night.
continue this.
Continue me to when?
We'll continue this out to March 10th.
Sounds fine. Thank you.
Will work. Okay, motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Marilyn,
Yes.
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
yes.
Ian,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Commission.
Okay, we're
Bye.
moving on the next discussion item, which is the Healthy Westford Committee proposed woodland walkway at Edwards Beach and Camp Neshoba at Stony Brook Conservation Area. Who's here for this, Matt?
I just promoted Bill Harmon. Bill, if you unmute yourself.
There we are. Yeah, good evening. I'm Bill Harmon. The Healthy Westford Committee has been discussing 2 ideas, and I'd just like to describe them to you and see if you're interested in them. The first one is at Edwards Beach. Oh, good. That's what this diagram shows here. If you drove into Edwards Beach, regular driveway, you would see just woods on the left-hand side, and that's shaded in this diagram here. And on the right-hand side is a very nice playground with a lot of colorful things. It's really, and very popular, I've been told. And the beach itself is beyond that. Now for this woodland, it's unattractive right now, mainly because of 3 fallen trees that are just in sort of an awkward condition. But the idea that we've been discussing is to have a loop trail over there that would actually be accessible, wheelchair accessible. And so basically that's the idea. And I'm curious to ask, well, first of all, I believe that the majority of this land is administered by the Conservation Commission, and the square on the left-hand side, that's administered by the Select Board. But I know that the Recreation Department is also involved in the beach itself. And so my main question is, do you think that the Healthy Westford should consult with some other organizations about this?
Sure.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to talk to the selectmen if it's go through their possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about recreation? Do you think they would want to know about it?
Sure, yeah, I would discuss it with them, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, basically, that was my only question.
Sure.
The
So-
other
so Bill,
area.
Sorry? I mean, do you know what the design would involve in this? Is it gonna be paved? Is it gonna be packed sandust or packed material? Do you know what is involved? Really?
The idea that I have in mind is based on a very nice wheelchair accessible walkway that's in Leominster. It's called the Doyle Community Park. And that's 3 layers that have been put down. First of all, I guess the area was cleared out so that there was down a few inches was removed. And then 3 layers were put in. I forget what the 3 are right now. But that's something that hasn't been decided yet. I'd like to work on this and come back with a more specific proposal later. I mean, maybe
Okay.
even ask it. Might be good.
Okay.
I see Marilyn raising her hand.
Marilyn?
Yeah. Bill, two things come to my mind. One, I like this idea if we can work it out with everybody. What comes to my mind is you should advise the Commission on Disability, unless you already have, that you're interested in doing this, because they would certainly embrace something like this. And the other piece is this might be something that the CPA could possibly help with down the road.
Oh, yes, I guess that's a good point. Thank you, Marilyn.
Welcome.
I was talking with the Commission on Disability, not about this one, but about the other one. And if it's okay, let's switch to that other one.
Sure.
The idea was mentioned by that commission that the way they put it, it was this, that there is a time when the 5th grade goes to East Boston camps and has a really neat project there. And the commission asked, would it be possible to have a wheelchair accessible trail that went into the woods? And so we just did a little bit of work on it, and it's illustrated here. The point was to find if there is a path that would not be involved. By the way, this area, this is the main area around the dining hall. That's pretty flat. However, after the flat area, it's very steep down to Burgess Pond. And so a wheelchair accessible walkway path would have to be on the flat area, not down on that sloping area. So, up to this point, it does seem that there is a path that would fit those conditions. In other words, it would not have any steep slopes. It would stay up on the flat area. However, it would go off into the woods. And it actually, when I went there, I was thinking, well, this could be called the Overlook Path, because the overlook view of the pond is really neat from there. It's a long way away, but it's a very good view. So that was the 5th graders we had found out used both this area and the other one, the smaller area that's to the east of this. But by the way, the idea here would be that somebody who's using a wheelchair would come to this place in a car and then would be able to begin using this loop trail that goes around and goes off a ways into the woods. Not very far, but a little bit into the woods.
Jim, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, the gates at the entrance area are more often than not closed, so there's not going to be any cars driving up through here.
Didn't think they were supposed to.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, the original idea was to do it at the time, or that would be useful at the time when the 5th graders are there. And I think that they probably.
I think that the master plan had a handicap trail being proposed, I think, down in the area of the bog on the entrance. Outside the gate, there's a parking area right there. And I think they were talking about some kind of a handicap accessible trail around that bog in conjunction with the road, the entrance road. Is that in the master plan?
Flat. That would be flat
Well,
there.
Yeah, with the Ice House Road, Jim, that's where the original theory was, is that they could get to the day beach along the Ice House Road because it's nice and flat.
Yes. And that was accessible from the parking area too, as opposed to this area here where you'd have to drive up into the middle of the camp in order to get to the handicap trail.
Sounds better.
There is a gate there, Jim, at the beginning of the Ice House Road. I was thinking this would be more accessible by car because there are certain times of year in which cars do come up to the main area that I'm showing in this map here. And there's plenty of parking there. Oh, for example, when there are those barbecue events put on by the Friends of East Boston Camps.
Those are a couple of weekends during the year, but there's going to be the summer camp operator also where this whole area is going to be closed off.
That's true. So are you thinking?
The problem, Bill, here is the gate gets closed and locked when there's nothing going on. You know what I mean? And I don't know how. I'm in all in favor of having handicap accessible access, but I don't know how we would work it because that gate is closed when there's no activities at the camp.
Yeah, okay, I see your point.
Yeah, because we've had a ton of problems. If that gate stays open, there's been all kinds of problems, especially with the increased use there. We've had all kinds of problems with people going up there illegally. And so I believe the last 2 years, we've kept that gate closed when there's no activities at the camp.
Peter, I think you were talking about the main gate near the big parking.
I'm talking about the main gate.
Yeah,
And if we put in a trail along the old Ice House Road, made that handicap accessible, they could still park in the regular parking area and they could go up the road and access the pond via the road.
okay, I see your point. And in fact, the
Yeah.
main gravel road is really pretty level from.
Oh,
the main-
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that area was specifically mentioned in the East Boston Camps Master Plan as a location for possible handicap trail.
Yes, I know about that. That's true. What about the other gate? There's a second gate right there. Are you thinking?
There is, but that's fine. I mean, the secondary gate is closed also. But you know, the whole point is they're going to have to park in the main parking area.
Yeah. Okay, so at least we can say that that's to be
They can
resolved.
still get through the secondary gate. It's not a problem. We'll make access through the secondary gate for the handicap. That's what here.
Okay, well,
Okay.
These are good points. I understand. All right, well, that you've answered my questions, and so we'll see. Yeah, there's some more information on that point about that gate there, and I'll follow those suggestions.
Okay, Bill.
Thanks,
you
Bill.
for coming.
Thanks for the presentation.
Okay. We can move on to our next item, which is Kersey Circle gift update. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we've been working in the past couple months on acquiring this land and in terms of when we do accept it, as you can see on the plan, a butter at 18 Kersey Circle had a fence go off their land, off their property into this little strip of land. And we went back and forth a couple times with the surveyor and engineer in terms of how best to rectify A, the encroachment, and B, the overall design of the parcel we were hoped to be to be accepting. And in terms of the current layout is more desirable. It allows a wider width at the entrance from Kersey Circle for a trailhead to meander back to the jog in the property, and then from there it can be connected down to the old Woodland Road on the Adams property. So it's it's moving closer to getting resolved, and wanted to include this for an update for the commission.
Okay.
Okay, next item, review planning board application, open space residential development at 0 and 37 Carlisle Road.
So this a open space special permit for an open space residential development and a definitive subdivision, and also a stormwater management permit came into the planning board a couple weeks ago now. They are looking to develop an 8-lot subdivision at the 2 parcels, 0 and 37 Carlisle Road. There's a couple wetlands that were delineated via an ANRAD back in, I think, 2018, September 2018. And so they do have an open space parcel protecting the wetlands in most of the buffer area. There is another open space community parcel at the northwest corner of it. And was going to be providing comments to the planning board, specifically what we went over at the last meeting regarding documentation of the CR and preparation of all the CR documents, monumentation of the open space, which they do show at 50-foot intervals along the properties that do abut open space, which would be 6, 5, 4, and 3. Lots 5 and 3 also have, I guess just lot 3 has a stone wall demarcating the boundary between their property and the open space. I was going to ask if that could possibly be, if the stone wall between 5 and 6 could, or 4 and 5 could be located between 4 and the detention basin, just again to demarcate the boundaries. And lastly, the my only other recommendation would be to include have the deed of lot 4 include language that the property does have a 100-foot buffer on it, and that encroachment would fall under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, as is typically included in order of conditions for residential projects. If the commission has any comments, I'd gladly incorporate them into mine.
So they would come before us, and it's just for lot 4?
I don't think so, because they're proposing to keep everything out of the 100-foot buffer, and not disturbing any of the the trees are to be remaining within the 100. So everything is outside of jurisdiction of the commission.
Beautiful.
So there won't be any work done within that 100-foot buffer on lot 4. Then.
Right, but I would want some language in the deed so that in the event the property owner or subsequent property owners decided that they wanted a pool, they do know that there is conservation land or the buffer to a jurisdictional wetland out there.
We could ask them to mark the 100-foot.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh yes, that was also on my notes. Thank you, Peter.
That's what I was thinking, more than just the language in the, yeah, okay.
All right, anything else you guys on this? All right, Matt, you got that. Okay, next item is review certificate of compliance for North America, 10 Liberty Way.
So this order of condition was issued in 2008 for the when Puma moved into the property at 10 Liberty Way. They wanted to redevelop the entryway and increase some parking. And the project was out Monday or yesterday with an engineer from Eisner Brem confirming that the stone riprap berm in the furthest west detention basin was installed from bank to bank. Their plan showed a little bit, or I think just the depiction of it on the plan didn't show that. So I wanted to confirm, but it was, and everything looks to have been constructed. And again, it's also 13 years after the work was completed. And I recommend the commission issue the order of conditions.
Okay,
Okay, motion to approve.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Peter, yes. I guess that's it. Anybody got anything else they need to bring up?
Nope.
Nope.
What time tomorrow?
Yeah. Can I come?
One COC.
One
That's it,
COC.
right?
So if people could meet in the, I'll bring the clipboard to the rear entrance to Town Hall. It should be pretty quick and easy to sign there.
Great.
But yeah, 1:15 works. And Marilyn, yes, you can stop in earlier.
Okay, thank you. Just makes it easy because I'm coming from homeschooling. Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Marilyn,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Eric,
yes.
Ian,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Hey, you guys.